Hey everyone, this is Devin Francis, aka Leonard Meltsner,
And this is Victoria.
and
And
you're watching.
welcome to the Adventures in Odyssey Oddcast.
There we go. Yeah, as you noticed from the last episode, we can't really both say it anymore because of Skype and lag and stuff. We can't sync it up. Also, from the last episode, I'm sure you noticed that there were a lot of terrible audio syncing issues. This should no longer be a problem. I really hope there might still be some issues, but it shouldn't be as bad as last time. So, to start off, right before we get into things, when we get to our feature presentation for today, I am giving it a spoiler tag, so if you're not familiar with the Novacom saga, the Blackgaard Saga, or other things in Odyssey, then you might want to avoid it if you don't want to get stuff spoiled for you. But on the non-spoilery side of things, we have a little side project I've been working on. I mentioned it earlier, and I've done a few more things with it since then. So what I'm trying to do is find box 9800, Vancouver, BC, V6B4G3, which, as many of you will know, is or was actually until very recently, the Canadian mailing address for Focus on the Family. So while I can't get down to the real life 80995 in Colorado Springs, Colorado, where Whit's End and all that is, because I'm living in Vancouver, I'm going to try and find the Canadian mailing box, which was Focus's address from the beginning of Odyssey up until extremely recently. So I'm going to try and find the physical mailbox, and we'll probably record a wraparound for an episode or something like that in front of it. In the meantime, I am trying to track it down, and so I figured as I get each step of the way, I'd make little video updates, and, I'd drop them into episodes to keep you guys tuned in to what is happening on this search. So I'll turn you over to other past Devin right now. Hey everybody, this is Devin again. I don't know how long it's going to be before you guys are watching this, but as I mentioned in an earlier episode, I think I mentioned it, because I'm living in Vancouver now, I am going to try and find box 9800 V6B4G3, which some of you will remember was until very recently, and since the beginning of Adventures in Odyssey, the mailing address for Focus on the Family here in Canada. I'm living in Vancouver, and so I wanted to try and find the physical mailing box and see what happens. So I'm on a quest to find it. So I not quite just came back from the post office. It was actually yesterday. I went to mail some things, and while I was at the post office, I asked the mail lady some questions about how I could figure out where this box is, and I got a phone number. Here, look at that. Yes, that is the helpline for Canada Post. So that is the first step in my mission to find it, and hopefully they will give out the information to enable me to find the post box. So I just thought, rather than doing a video at the end about what happened, it might be more fun to give little update videos interspersed inside the regular episodes on my quest, or the search for box 9800 is what I'm calling it, because it sounds like the search for Whit, sort of. So after I call them and ask about it, I'll make another update video. Whether that will appear in the same episode as the one that this appears in or not, I have no idea. I'm here by the fountain again. See? It's a very nice fountain. Alright, I think that's everything. So, thank you for watching this. I'll turn you back over to the regular episode now. And goodbye. Alright, so that's about the gist of what's going on with that. And as future episodes of the Oddcast come out, you guys can look forward to little updates about what's happening with that. I have yet to call the helpline yet, so I'll do that, and then, we'll see where we can go from there. So, on to our feature presentation now. We are starting a new series, as you can see in the intro, called What if for short in terms of the classification of the episodes. So essentially, this was Victoria's idea, this little series, and what we're doing is looking at events that happened in Odyssey, very pivotal events, and seeing what could have happened in Schrodinger's universe if they had gone the other way. And for the first episode, we are going with probably what would have been the biggest effect on Odyssey, and that would be if Whit had never done anything that happened to him in his life. Specifically, what would have happened if he had died in the Battle of Manatugo Point in 1942, as you can hear in this clip.
Well done, Whittaker. Well done. Remind me to put you in for a raise. Lieutenant! What? Whittaker! What, are you trying to drown me? Whittaker! Whittaker!
Alright, so yeah, even though Whit survived that, and I mean, he did kind of lose part of his ear and it got sewed back on afterwards, but he survived it. That episode was from Album 6, Mission Accomplished, by the way, Rescue from Manatugo Point. You can go buy it on iTunes or on the Focus Store, or wait for it to come on the radio or whatever. Anyways, Whit could have died there if he had. Things all over the world and in Odyssey and such would have been very drastically different. And so the point of our episode is to look at exactly how these things would have been different. So let us begin with our list of things. The first point, we started looking at characters first, how their lives would have been different. Connie, Kendall. So things that would have been the same. Connie first came to Odyssey and met Whit in episode 3. Connie comes to town. So, Victoria, what would have changed? What would have been the same with Connie? What would have been different?
Okay, so Connie would have still come to Odyssey because, unlike a couple other characters, Connie didn't go to Odyssey in the first place because of Whit. So, so she would have gone there. First thing she was going to do when she got to Odyssey was she was going to get a job.
At Fashion
those
Center,
of you remember that?
to be specific.
Yeah. But then Whit persuaded her to get a job at Whit's End. So she would have ended up getting a job at the Fashion Center, and she would have never become a Christian. And then once she saved in... Most likely. Yeah. Unless Pam still ministered to her when she got back to California. But anyway, so she would have worked at the
Connie
Fashion
was
Center.
pretty hard-hearted and stubborn, so it probably wouldn't have worked very well.
Yeah. So she would have gotten enough money at the Fashion Center to go back to California.
Sorry about the band music here. I'll just hopefully that's not too loud in the mic. It shouldn't be. We'll just speak up.
It's not. So she would have still gone to California, and most likely she would have stayed there with her dad.
Yeah.
And who knows how she would have turned out.
Alternatively, because she came into Whit's End initially to look for directions to Front Street, maybe she never would have found her way there, never would have gotten a job at Fashion Center, and would have just become a hobo on the streets of Odyssey forever. Who knows?
She was living with her mom.
Yeah, but what if she never found her way back home? What if she was just lost in McAllister Park forever? It's a big place, Victoria.
Good point, it takes up like all of Odyssey. Anyway, next character.
Granted, there would have been a
Meltsner.
mall. There would have been a mini mall there instead of Whit's End, so she probably could have gotten a job there too. There would have been a lot more job opportunities in Odyssey, actually. But that's getting ahead of ourselves. Eugene Meltsner.
Yeah. I'll let you do this one.
All right. So, what would have happened with Eugene? He still would have gone through everything up in his life the same way until he met Whit. He still would have been working at the college and being a student there. He wouldn't have been able to intern at Whit's End, obviously, and wouldn't have had as much technological experience as he did from helping Whit with his inventions. He probably never would have become a Christian, but he likely would have still met Miss Katrina Shanks at the Campbell College library. And because he wasn't a Christian and she wasn't a Christian, because she never worked at Whit's End either, because it never existed, chances are they probably still would have gotten together and gotten married eventually, which is an interesting thought. The Fillmore Recreation Center, on the other hand, without Jenny or Whit being there to stop it, would have been torn down by Glossman and built into a mini-mall by the Webster development firm. And this would have given Blackgaard access to the mineral underneath. And while Ruku, and more specifically TA-418, wouldn't have been developed without Whit, or would have been developed differently without Whit, the minerals still had an unimaginable plethora of uses of which Blackgaard would have gained full control over, which is a pretty scary thought. Bernard and Tom?
So what's next? Okay. Devin and I think that Bernard and Tom would pretty much more or less be the same.
Yeah. There probably wouldn't be any BTV, and, their lives would suck significantly more than they do now. Well, I mean, Bernard's dead, but, we miss you, Bernard. Come back. Dave Madden.
Please, Dave Madden, please. Even though you're probably not seeing this.
No. Come back from Florida, record over the phone, give us a send-off episode like Jack and Joanne had.
Yeah.
I mean, Earl Bowen recorded from Hawaii over the phone, so you can record from Florida.
For what?
It was for album 50, I think. No, 44, I think it was. The Power of One. You recorded as Edwin over the telephone.
Anyway.
Anywho.
So, another thing I thought of about Eugene, he would have never learned that Bernard was his relative, most likely.
You're right. He never would have known that he had any living family, whether horizontally or vertically.
So since we've kind of already talked about Bernard and Tom, because there wouldn't be really any change with them.
Yeah. So, Jack Allen, not Jack Davis, Jack Allen probably...
I want to do Jack.
Okay.
Okay. So, Jack, because I want to do this one because I was the first one to bring this up, Jack and Joanne. So first,
Here,
Jack.
I just sent you all of the stuff that I wrote, so you actually have the text now that I'm reading from. It's in Skype.
Thank you. So, where are you? There it is. Okay. So, Jack, he wouldn't have come to Odyssey in the first place because the only reason he came to Odyssey was to go see Whit. And Whit would have died long before that. And I just thought of something. How do you think Clara would have turned out?
I was going to correct you.
We can talk about that later.
Too much Doctor Who. Well, if there was such a thing as too much Doctor Who.
There isn't.
Clara.
So Jack.
Clara would have.
Jack first.
Okay.
Jack first. Okay. So Jack, he would have probably been really depressed about his best friend dying, and Jack and Jenny, what did we say about them again?
Great Expectations, the timeline in that episode suggests that Whit went to war while he was in college, but before he met Jenny, which probably means that Jack and Jenny hadn't started dating yet, and I'm guessing that because they were best friends growing up, Jack probably, just after that point, would have been in too much of emotional distraught to be in the mind frame for dating, so he probably never would have ended up with Jenny in the first place. He probably still would have gotten together with Emily either way, since they were still best friends from long ago.
And Joanne
would have never been with Jack, because Joanne
never would have been Joanne
Whit.
Allen. She would have still been Joanne
Woodston.
Yeah, Woodston.
Joanne Judith Woodston.
Because the only reason she went to Odyssey in the first place was for the missions board.
Yeah. Fun fact, her middle name is Judith because she was Judy on the Jetsons.
So, Clara now, I guess.
I don't think she would have been all that much different. She still would have ended up with the Portlands adopting her, because Jack would have still been heading up the orphanage, so I don't think anything would have really gone different.
She probably would have been sadder, though.
She would have been sadder. She wouldn't have had the whole thing with Whit to make her really sad, but she wouldn't... I mean, overall, she probably wouldn't be as happy without having had that experience, but I think she would have pulled through all right.
Yeah. So, your turn.
UPF obviously never would have been started without Whit to found it, so the Universal Press Foundation would not be there, and all the corporate pies Whit was involved with would be missing his wonderfulness. There would be a whole lot of missions opportunities that would have been lost out on, because UPF sponsors a lot of missions. The Universal Encyclopedia would never have been published, obviously. Like we said, the Fillmore would have been torn down, so everything that Whit was connected with wouldn't have happened.
And schools wouldn't be able to teach because they get all their textbooks from Whit.
Yeah, and their math books too, which are provided from Macadamia Publishing, which is a subsidiary of UPF, as we learned in Home is Where the Herd Is.
Yep. So carry on with what you're saying.
The kids of Odyssey would have had a lot less ministry into their lives without Whit's in there, and a lot of the adults too. The Aharoni
Lots of the kids
dig,
wouldn't become Christians.
yeah, the Aharoni dig in Israel would have probably been shut down without Whit to take it over after Dr. What's-His-Face died.
Something or other.
Yeah.
And now some spoiler alerts.
Well,
so,
I think we've already done tons of spoilery things.
Yeah,
it's
I
not
know.
really a difference at this point.
Okay.
Just so people know, I'm turning my headphones back so it's louder, but without turning up the volume, so I don't get headphone interference into the mic like we did on the last episode. In case you didn't notice, what I actually had to end up doing in the end was cut out Victoria's volume entirely, so her voice was picked up on my own mic from my headphones so loudly that that entire video was actually just from my microphone. So yeah, that was the problem. So, do you want to do Novacom?
Let's both do Novacom.
Okay.
Because this one, I don't think I'd be able to do by myself.
So, going through the linear progression of events through Novacom, like we said, Eugene probably still would have ended up with Katrina, and that means that Armitage would have still got the grant for the RWS, the radio wave study, to Eugene at Campbell County. Whether or not he would have been as proficient at it is a big question, because what he was doing with the radio wave brainwave conversion is very closely tied, really, to what the Imagination Station does. So without all that work on it and his experience at Wits End, he probably wouldn't have been as good at it. However, he probably still would have been given the grant, because he didn't give... The grant wasn't given to him because of his technical skills. It was given to him because of nepotism from his prospective father-in-law. So he still would have gotten it, and probably, I mean, Eugene is very smart, and they had Duncan Mathis for guinea pigging, basically, for their experimentation. So they probably still would have come up with the same amount of success with the research. And without Whit or Jason, because of course Jason and Jerry and Jana and Monty and Jenny would have never been born without Whit. Without Jason or Whit there to stop them, Novacom might have taken over the world just a second, if not for the fact that they would have not had the Imagination Station as hardware to work through, because Whit would have never invented it. Yes, Victoria?
What's nepotism mean?
Oh, it's like giving a special privilege to your family.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's about the gist of what would have happened with Novacom, I think. So, they
probably wouldn't have been able to pull off the Nova boxes and everything they were doing properly without the Imagination Station.
No, so they probably wouldn't have taken over the world because they wouldn't have had that hardware, and there aren't many other people who can invent something like that.
Besides, Blacker's probably already done that if he has TA-418.
Yeah, I don't really know how that would have helped him with the Imagination Station, but who knows? The mineral is extremely diverse.
There is no Imagination Station. Whit's dead. Just like Bernard and everyone else.
No, I'm saying he wouldn't have been able to.
Oh.
Wait, never mind.
Next one was something I thought of.
That was Victoria's, so that's what I was going to say.
For those of you that have heard the episode and Active Nobility, it is about...
You don't have to explain it, Victoria.
A guy... And it's Whit's story, and we never find out if the person in it was Whit or not.
It's heavily implied that it was Whit.
Yeah, and me and Devin both think it was Whit, so we're just going to include that.
Yeah.
So I'll let you do this one.
All right, so basically, I guess since it's only one episode, we might as well explain this. While Whit was a young man and working on the Universal Encyclopedia research, he traveled to the country of Moldavia in Europe. In this story, he was using the name James Armour, which is likely supposed to be the same initials as John Avery. And what happened is he found out that the Crown Prince looked exactly like him, and he had to step in pretending to be the prince for the coronation of Moldavia in order to stop the evil cousin Erich von Warburg from usurping the throne and the royal line of Moldavia. So had Whit...
And
Yes.
Von Warburg was played by Dave Madden because he's everywhere. It's mocking us.
So the point is, if Whit wasn't there, and if the story really did happen to him, if it was a true story, because the pocket watch which Whit is given by the prince at the end of the story is the same one which he also happens to own, and there are a number of other things in the story which suggest that it really did happen to Whit. If it's all true, then without Whit there, Von Warburg would have been the crown prince of, or the crown king of Moldavia way back when, which likely would have led to other political upheaval in the Eastern European world back then.
Pretty much, we're all gonna die if Whit dies.
Yeah. He's the doctor, basically.
Nightmare.
So.
Alberoni Dig, didn't
I already
you
said
already
that.
talk about that one?
Oh yeah, and it would have been closed, and the Judas Gospel would have likely also never been discovered because of that. You can do this one.
Green Ring Conspiracy. So the counterfeiting in Odyssey would have continued because we already knew it was going on anyway, and Whit didn't really have any effect on it till album 53 anyway, because Isaac's episode doesn't count. And Groot would have spread the counterfeit money all over the world.
Yeah. The three most important characters in stopping the Green Ring Conspiracy were Whit and Jason and Monty, and of course none of them would have been there because Whit would have been dead and Jason and Monty would have never been born without Whit. So it's likely that Groot's entire plan would have succeeded with the Green Ring Conspiracy, and if it did, who knows, he might have also gone on without Jason to have succeeded in his London escapades, including the assassination of the British Prime Minister and many other international heads of state.
Blackgaard's probably the British Prime Minister by now.
Probably. I honestly wouldn't doubt it.
We've been the villains taking care of each other like in the cartoons.
He's very charismatic.
So what would have been on the war memorial that is in McAllister Park instead of Jerry, because Jerry would have never been born.
And Whit would have died in World War II, so he would be included on the McAllister Park War Memorial. And
which is sad.
Yes.
I want to do this one. Okay.
But it's my name.
That's interesting. You can say the name of the person we're talking about.
Leonard Meltsner.
Leonard Meltsner.
Leonard Meltsner.
Oh, that was better. But anyway. So Leonard would have probably... Whit had no effect on Leonard escaping.
Dalton Kern.
Dalton, thank you. It's on the tip of my tongue. Whit had no effect on Dalton, or Leonard escaping Dalton. So that would have still all happened. So Leonard probably might have still stayed in Connellsville in hiding from Dalton for many, many years without ever finding Eugene. So he'd still think Eugene was dead.
Yeah.
And he'd still think Everett was dead, and Everett would have grown up with Dalton.
Yeah. Chances are Eugene and Leonard never would have found each other because, for one thing, Eugene wouldn't have been the type of person to go hang around in homeless shelters where Leonard was hiding, and secondly, he probably never would have gotten to Connellsville because, without Whit, he probably never would have taken the initiative to get his driver's license.
Yeah. Another thing me and Devin talked about was what would happen to the Timothy Center. Would that be created?
Yeah, I think the Timothy Center would have still been created because even without lots of the people there, really it comes down to Malachi as the influencing force behind that. So it's really up to God whether or not... Hey everyone, sorry about that. My webcam just shut itself off all of a sudden. It seems to be doing that today. I don't know if it's because I updated to iMovie 11 instead of iMovie 09. I'll look into that. Anyways, as we were saying, I'm not sure if God would have still sent Malachi to send that message to Tom and any other relevant people. That's really up to him. He wouldn't have had a message for Whit or Eugene or Connie or Jason or Jack and Joanne, but he might have still sent a message for Tom, right? I mean, God would have still sent his son if only one person sinned, so why wouldn't he have still sent Malachi if he only had a message for one person? So I think the Timothy still would have been built. On the topic of Whit's governmental work, there would be no applesauce, and we don't really know a whole lot about applesauce and the actual technical specs on it, but as Tasha explained in A Name Not a Number, it was an extremely important and extremely powerful program with a great number of varying capabilities, the likes of which no one had ever seen. So who knows how things could have turned out differently for the government without the help of applesauce from Whit and the other consulting work that he's done for the government since then. I mean, even as recent as album 53, we know he still has top priority security access with the U.S. Secret Service, so obviously he's still not twiddling his thumbs, as anyone would be able to guess.
Is he ever going to do that?
So to summarize, basically, if Whit died, nobody would be happy or be a Christian, and half of the world leaders today would be either psychopaths or dead. Or
both. Like Blackgaard, because he's a dead psychopath, and he keeps on coming up with new things to make him not dead. It's like Xehanort, but
like
worse.
Like the Master or Xehanort, yeah.
Actually, Xehanort's worse than Blackgaard, but...
Yeah.
Anyway.
But very similar, actually, in the respect of the Blackgaard's Revenge. It's a very Xehanort kind of thing that he did.
Yeah, with Riku. Anyway.
Kingdom Hearts spoilers, too, by the way. Retroactively.
It's not spoilers if they don't know what we're talking about.
Unless they do.
They probably won't. Okay.
And if it's not, then it doesn't matter. So I think that's everything that we have for you today. Not a ridiculously long episode like, the ones that we had for most everything so far. Our next episode is going to be reviewing episodes 731 and 732, More Than a Feeling and Repent After Me. Anything else you want to say, Victoria?
I still can't get over the fact that No Chemistry Whatsoever, Friend Formula, and More Than a Feeling aren't connected.
Yeah, we kind of were like in foul ball territory in terms of our guesstimations about those episodes, but hey, we still had fun.
How are they not connected? Oh well. C'est la vie.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, that's all that we have for you. Thank you for joining us on our side of the YouTube. I have been Devin.
And I am still Victoria.
And you have been watching The Adventures in Odyssey Oddcast. Close enough. Thank you, and good night.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.